in 2022, I was still with that group, and we had everything. We had our own surgery center, we had our own building, I was an equal partner, all the things. But, we had then 2020, which happened to everyone. And then within 2020, good or bad, you can paint it either way, I had a spontaneous retinal detachment.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yep, I was sitting in the back, I wear contacts. I thought, it's a long day, busy. Sitting back there, I thought I was pretty tired. I'm really, really tired. My contact must be messed up. I had the evening shade. And so I had it for a couple days and I was thinking more neurologic. And I was like, and so my wife said, look, you need to go to the doc. And so I went to my ophthalmologist around the corner from the office at the time and they kept me for hours, and they were back and forth, and finally they came and said, "Man, you've got a retinal detachment. You need to go see a
Mm-mm.
retinal specialist tonight." And so I went down and saw that person, and they operated me on the next day, and I was down for a couple months. But it
Mm.
was during 2020, so it didn't hurt that much, but
Okay.
a scary time personally because I don't know how they couldn't guarantee that I would get my sight back, at all, and to what
And you can't
degree.
work without it.
Correct. Yeah, you cannot work without it. So fortunately and blessed enough to get my sight back and had a fantastic surgeon. So that takes me up, to 2022. I'm still with the group and I suddenly lose my mother. I lost my father on the front end of the pandemic, just before I joined that group, and I lost my mother on the back end of the
Mm.
pandemic. And so with that, losing my father, being in a practice is stressful just in general for everyone. There are a lot of upsides more than down, but still stressful. Losing my eyesight, the pandemic, and then losing my last parent, uh, was a bit much to take, personally.
Mm.
And then dealing with a practice that wasn't really quite where I think I wanted my practice to be. And I mean that by saying I'm really business focused, hence the MBA. I really try to think more like business people, like the Scott Galloways of the world, if you're familiar with that guy, if you watch podcasts, people who are really innovative in business and how they run and drive business. And I think as doctors, we are working toward that. We're not there yet.
Mhm.
And so that was a disconnect. And so I decided in 22 to stop rambling. I decided in 22 just to pause and take a break and really reflect with all the storms that had been swirling around for the last couple of years. What's going on? Who am I? Where am I? And where am I going?
Mm.
Do I need to pivot now? I've lost both my parents. I have a sister that needs help and is dependent. I have my own family. What am I going to do with my life? And so I almost
Do you feel
quit.
like that was I mean, that was really like a crisis moment, it sounds
It
like. I
was. It
mean,
was a big crisis. I was dealing with probably 4 of the 5 major stressors that, they're well documented, pretty much all at the same time or at least in succession. And so I almost quit, to be honest with you, in
yes.
22. It's like, because again, practice is hard. I had a blended practice. I did cosmetic, I did insurance, and insurance is tough and running a business is tough. I was like, I don't know if I have the fortitude to just jump back in it. I
Yeah.
just don't know. And so I kind of took a year off. I had the ability to do that,
Mhm.
which was a blessing.
Yes.
And I did that. And I took that time to really reflect of what type of life I wanted to have moving forward, how I can be intentional in that life, and does plastic surgery fit in that life, or does
Mm.
medicine fit in that life? I could pivot. I have I have a business degree. Maybe I pivot there. But again, everything has its cross to bear. I could have
Mm.
pivoted in business and it would have been something else. So I basically sat back and took a year off, and I was actually going to move from Atlanta to Oklahoma City. Now, I'm not a big fan of Oklahoma City, and the people in Oklahoma are going to hate me for that. But Oklahoma City, I lived there for 13 years. It's just not the pace I like, but it's done much better. But I was willing to go back to the VA and work at the VA
Yeah.
because I was familiar.
Mhm.
And to be honest, it was a stable job. It's a
Yes.
government job, and you get to do some diversity of cases. There's some nuances and some things that
True, true.
that may rub you the wrong way, but it's a steady gig. Let's just be honest, and it
Yes.
gives you good, interesting cases. And I almost did that, but my wife is from Georgia, and she's just not gonna do
No, no,
that.
she wasn't gonna go for that. So
No.
you're in this crisis, you have to take care of your family. You have to take care of your sister. Your
Yes.
parents, who you dearly loved, are both gone in a short amount of time, and practice is not where you want. I mean, it kind of the depths you're feeling like Job, maybe, I don't know. I mean, a really hard time.
Yes.
What do you clearly, there's some pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of stuff, but
Sure.
but who or what where are you drawing support from that? Where does that come from for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. It comes from multiple places. Of course, it came from my wife at the time who really
Mhm,
saw, the worst of me. I was really in a bad place, and she
mm,
was pushing and, saying, "Hey, you really need to sit down and reflect and talk to somebody if you really need to talk to somebody."
mhm,
I think as men, and I'll just say that, we kind of, resistant. Well, I can just kind of figure it out. I can gut it out. I can be silent and strong and those types of things. And we are, but
right.
we all need help. And
Mhm,
so she was really a big impetus to say, "Hey, you talk to someone." So I ended up talking to somebody. So that was one pillar of strength.
mhm,
And then I belonged to a church that when I lived in another part of town, that really I kept connections with. And there were a couple of guys who really checked on me and really say, "Hey man, how are you doing? Let's go grab some lunch. Hey man, if you need anything, just call me." And I really leaned on them. So
mhm,
I did that. And then my kids were adults and my girls were fantastic. They would call and say, "Hey, dad, are you all right? Hey, I just want to check on you. Yeah, I think that's a great idea if you talk to somebody." So that was a great pillar of strength. And then I just said, this is just a chapter in life. This is not the last chapter. Once I kind
mhm,
of got myself up to a point where I can think about things other than where I was, I said, "This is not the last chapter. So what do I want to do? You are in control more than you're not. So go ahead and direct the remaining chapters of your life and be intentional about that." So those were some of the things that I did, and it wasn't as easy, obviously, as I've articulated. It took some time, for me to get there. I mean, I was laying on the couch for 5 minutes at a time telling myself it's going to be okay, and it's gonna be okay,
mhm.
and that turned into 10 minutes, and that turned into an hour, and that turned into, a day and a half a day, and then I was up doing things. So, uh, it was a lot of good people, a lot of good support, and really kind of sitting back and thinking, "Okay, what do you wanna do? You have almost a blank canvas. What picture do you wanna paint?"
Hey, thanks for watching. We've got a lot more videos just like that one. We hope you check them out. So don't forget to like and subscribe our YouTube channel. We'd like for you to enjoy our content and share it with everybody you know. See you next time.